Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bubbles. I'm Terry Williams. The gentleman over to my far left is Mr. Ben Dunn.
Howdy.
And I'm sure you all remember and recognize the lovely lady in the middle of us. She's joining us again. We didn't scare her off. She's back. Stephanie Nadolny.
I actually, the last time I was here, I thought it was longer. So I kind of like, when we stopped, we had to, there's a time limit. But I was like, oh, okay, bye.
Had more stuff to say?
I guess I'll come back.
Yes, you can definitely get it out today.
Definitely.
So, definitely, I like that.
I know,
I like
it's branding.
That. Branding,
It's
I like
silly
that.
and punny,
I like
but
that.
It's Steph punny.
So, what's been going on?
I'm just in the middle of getting ready for the big holiday season here, 2023.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of traveling this year, more than I have even when I was traveling with my touring show band, Vince Vance and the Valiants. This is actually, when I say travel, I mean I traveled probably more then, but I've flown more.
Yeah.
Like actually taken.
I see your.
There's planes, trains, and automobiles, but this year's been a lot of travel, a lot of flights.
Yeah, I see you're pretty much every weekend.
Every weekend, yes. I'm making pretty much a full-blown career out of it right now. This is kind of making hay while the sun's shining. Very, very grateful that there's a body of work that has so much nostalgia that I was attached to. I'm obviously, always looking for new work and auditioning and seeking a new agent. So I'm in the middle of doing a lot of that, but I also do this kind of stuff too, the podcast and reaching out to the fans online and streaming and kind of learning the ropes with technology. But yeah, mostly traveling, Comic-Cons, meet and greets, comic stores. I do some special appearances for anti-bullying and
sweet.
And I've got a lot of mental illness awareness and addiction, and kind of work with youth mostly who are experiencing issues with that. So I'm peppering in some of that because that's a great way to give back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with stuff you've been through yourself. What about you? Doing the same?
I'm just hanging around, doing my comics, going to a few shows here and there, just leading a sedentary life. I'm not traveling as much as you are, that's for sure.
Being the amazing creative artist like you are, you can do that pretty much anywhere as long as you have your materials with you.
That's just one advantage of being an artist. You don't have to move around a lot to do what you want to do,
That's the beauty of self-employed. You can kind of work when you can and when you want. You can work as much as you want or as little as you want.
Yeah, but sometimes you want to.
You gotta have
the
your
steady
R&R.
paycheck is nice too.
It is nice. You have to have. It's all about. It sounds cliche, but it's all about balance.
Right.
Yeah. Same with you. I mean, you've been doing some shows as well with your comics.
I've traveled a lot this year, way more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And I've loved it.
Welcome to the madness.
I've met so many really cool people, and that's kind of like what I was blown away by. I've always been a fan of comics, always gone to a few cons. But this year, going in the capacity that I've gone in, I've been to a couple where I've gotten to just go as just a guest, just to go and kind of look around and see everything.
Attendee.
Yeah, an attendee.
Right?
I buy a ticket and go, and that's been really fun. And just
it is fun.
From being on the other end of the table, on the other side is the vendor to the other side, and so I forgot what that's like. And so just going around and like seeing folks like you and meeting the people that are there, like it's really cool. Like
and stuff.
it's really fun watching you guys interact. And fortunately, I've been to shows with both of you. I've known you so long that it seems like you're just being
middle
you.
school.
Yeah,
Durant, Oklahoma.
It's really cool that you guys there's no air. That you guys are just you. Like I see Ben in a setting, and he's just drawing and talking and getting to know people. And I think that's what, with both of you, draw people into your realm with voice acting and with the comics.
Right.
Like, this guy, I like his work, but he's a nice guy too.
Yeah, getting to know the person.
Yeah.
The face-to-face interactions has always been my favorite. I mean, I'm a people person, and so that's my personal favorite. I don't think about the money. I don't think about the income. I don't think about any of that. I feel like when you're really doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're using your talents to share with the world, that all falls into place. So if you don't obsess about any one thing and you just kind of do your thing and explore that passion, and then you share it, and then you just kind of
sounds really exciting.
It's kind of deep, but it's like shining your light, and that's kind of what we're all supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
we've all got purpose. We've all got something, talents and skills that we're kind of naturally good at.
Oh, sure. I mean, when you go to a show, when people come up to you, okay, and What do they usually say to you when they first meet you? I mean, are they surprised to meet the voice actors behind their favorite characters? Do they have like a different impression of what?
Right. The first meeting, it's always different. I mean, it depends on if it's a kid that's watched it with his father, or sometimes whole families come up. That to me is my favorite, because then I get to kind of meet the whole family, and then we do a group picture, and then there's just I grew up with a big family. I don't have one now, so it's fulfilling of that void of being around families and kids, and really listening to them talk about what the show meant to them, what maybe my character meant to them, how that voice was ingrained in their childhood, or how it's incorporated into their life. It was, Dragon Ball Z, comics, whatever it is, at any age, is a great escape. It's a great way to kind of like deal with life and kind of like channel your energy into something that you're getting something back from.
Yes,
and keeping kids safe and off the streets, and if Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z did that for people, then that's amazing. Some of the stories that I hear are literally almost cause tears. I mean, there's some kids that had broken families, or they were a victim of domestic abuse, which I can relate to, and it's powerful to know that we make impacts when we don't realize we're making these impacts by just simply sharing a gift, voicing a character, or being silly with a voice, or I just think that that's a great way for people to just get away from maybe some hard times, or to empower them to be strong or resilient in times of adversity.
You allow them to escape into a different world.
Right, and I think about it now. I mean, at first I'm like, why are people think I'm famous, or what is going on here? Like, what is this all about? And then I think, oh, well, what was my idol? Donna Summer, or disco, or music, or whatever it is. We all latch onto something, as a child, and then we become like I call it you nerd out on something. So you can't really make fun of nerds, because nerds are anybody.
We've taken over the world.
I know.
Yeah. I'm good with it. I've always been a misfit.
It used to be back in the 80s and the 90s. Then not so much, but
now it's like it's okay. Yeah,
it's mainstream, and anime's mainstream, and so the face-to-face interactions are powerful for me, and they get me through my rough times and give me some sense of purpose. So I've really just been embracing it and having a lot of fun with it.
Well, for new listeners, tell us a little bit about your career.
New listeners, hello. I started out really latching onto music before I could probably really even talk, and music and what you hear and auditory things as a child, really. You can pick up on stuff like that before you even realize what it is and how it's impacting you. And so it was ingrained in me. I'm just really glad that both my parents were music lovers. There was always a nice stereo in the house. Even if we didn't have a whole lot, we always had music. And the second I had a microphone in my hand, it was like I'm hooked.
Yep.
At 3 years old, Dad's like, you got to go to bed. And I just did not want to let go of that microphone. And then it became, playing around on piano, and then we moved around a lot, so it was kind of like piano lessons here, and writing songs and poetry, and I was always very creative and expressive anyway, and that was a good way for me to kind of channel that. But as I grew up, it became musicals and talent shows and dance competition, and I even took baton. That was one thing I wasn't the greatest at, but I did do anything and everything I could do, ballet, tap, and then I got into the Vince Vance and the Valiants thing right out of high school. I went to UNT for music and was majoring in drama, and was active in the musical scene and some community theater here and there in North Texas and Denton. And then it just kind of took off, because once I was on the road with Vince Vance, it was like, here's my resume that I look back now, that's the start of my real professional career. And now we're having our 52nd anniversary, coincidentally, next weekend. 50, wow. Did I say 52?
Oh
52 years.
You're dating yourself.
I am dating myself. I was a fetus when I joined the band.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking. That's like,
yeah,
wait, math's not adding up.
Right, I know. Well, young at heart.
Yeah.
And I do not act my age, which I hope is good. I try to be mature, but
you're only as young as you feel.
Right, the little kid's right there, right?
I feel 7.
Yeah, I know. I still feel like we're in middle school.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's
Yeah.
I find it fascinating because obviously your parents encouraged you quite a bit. Gave you a lot of support, which I think is very important because I think a lot of families don't understand when someone has a dream that they want to do something. It's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
It was mostly once my parents split. It was my dad was out of state and he's still out of state. And my mom was my biggest cheerleader, and I stuck by her side even through the divorce and her remarriage, and really trying to tolerate step families coming in and out.
Right?
And she's still in my heart. She passed away right when I got into the voice of Gohan, and so I have a lot of personal experience to draw from when it's like the father-son Kamea scene and the Cell Saga. The fans will know what I'm talking about. So I've drawn a lot of my inspiration from real life.
Fantastic.
Real life challenges, and we all have them.
So tell the audience, what characters have you played?
So I'm mostly known for the voices of OG Kid Goku from Dragon Ball, and It's Kai, and Baby Trunks, and don't forget Gohan, don't hurt my daddy, and Super Saiyan Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. And this is all OG. When I say OG, there's been different recordings before and during and after, and so that's the Funimation OG dub from 1999.
That is amazing. I mean, those are male characters, am I correct?
I tried out for the females. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was like, I'm at an audition.
The little kids coming to shock says,
I
could never imagine
That's just
you
what I was
playing
about to
it.
ask is how often do you get
I have to prove it.
like you're a girl?
Yeah. Wait a minute. It was really prominent when I first was dubbing and it was airing on Cartoon Network for the first time. And I was my first Comic-Con, which I had never even known what Comic-Cons were, was San Diego Comic-Con. And 4 of us.
Good one to start off with.
I know. I was like, what? There was like Star Wars, people that, Lou Ferrigno, all these people that I still see sometimes. But I really had to prove it then because it had just come out on TV. Nobody really even knew who we were as far as what we looked like because they just, heard the voices. So I remember doing the voice all day long, all weekend long, and I was so fried afterwards. I did it because, it's for the fans. But they were like, but you're a girl. Because most of the fans then, they're all over 30 now. But at the time, they were, 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe a little older. But
the kids have no conception of that.
Right. And I think about it now, and I think back, I didn't really realize I was watching Looney Tunes, and Smurfs or whatever we were watching when we were kids Saturday morning. And I didn't put the two together until I got the auditions and started really getting out in the industry and realizing, wow, I think I wanted to be a voice actor before I knew the profession.
Yep.
Like as a kid, and I don't even remember me, I was pretty silly about doing
it was
voices
always you are always that girl who you're still you've not changed.
I know. I told you.
It's still
told you.
The singing, the just give this girl a mic and step away.
Yeah, there's some people that are like, "Are you comfortable
She's
introducing
multifaceted.
yourself?"
She's gonna
and I'm
own
like,
it.
"Give me that microphone."
She's gonna own
Hello,
it.
everybody.
Yeah,
and I have a lot of experience with stage, being with Vince Vance and the Valiants, and then working with them off and on for over 2 decades. I never went back to college. I'm not telling you guys not to go to college. You should go to college. Go to college. But I was doing what I wanted, and I was gaining the experience, hands-on. Sleeping on the airport floors. May or may not get a shower that day. The tour bus breaking down, and having a family on the road that you didn't necessarily choose, but you better work it out because you're stuck together. And then there's a respect for everybody and what they bring to the table. And so I've been in show bands since, age 19. 18 was my first one, but my first real big job was with Vince Vance. And you guys can look him up. He's got the All I Want for Christmas Is You, the original 1989 country Christmas song.
Wow.
He's like, I know
a big deal.
in our area, Southern Oklahoma, North Texas, he's kind of a legend.
Yes, he is a
I mean,
legend.
you can't go anywhere without knowing who he is or what he's meant to someone has gotten their start from someone that was either associated with him or in his band or from him himself.
And members of the band and musicians
in
the area. And he's originally from New Orleans, and so Vince Vance is a legend even more so in New Orleans and all throughout the cruising the coast and all along Mississippi, Biloxi, and mostly New Orleans and all around Louisiana. He's actually been inducted, and all of us that were in the band at the time were inducted in the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame.
Yep, because when I was in New Orleans for New Orleans, there was
the events there?
Con there. There was a con earlier this year, and one of the folks that were by me actually some of the vendors, which I didn't realize, but some of the vendors will bring their own, like a little speaker or whatever, and they were playing Vince Vance and the Valiant stuff.
Wow, yeah, he's
I'm
got
like,
some albums, yeah.
Wow,
We
okay.
put out one. I know I was on about 5 or 6 of them, but the most prominent one I was on was Tamale Wagon, and that was I did When I Close My Eyes, which is a 80s pop ballad. So that was my first real I'm releasing a song. That was 20.
Wow, that must have been very, very exciting.
Yeah, and there's one that's shelved that I'll be telling you guys about later. I'm hoping to put it up. It's called The Cookies. I worked with Brave Combo out of Denton, Texas. Carl Finch is the original main member, and they're still going strong too. By the way, Nuclear Polka band. They've won Grammys, and they're amazing. Wow. I worked with him, and boy, did I get some experience in the studio with him, because he's a producer, a musician, a singer. He's been a band leader for 30, 40 years now. So I got to work with people that I didn't even know at the time, were really teaching me just simply by me watching and observing and listening and paying attention. And so once I left Vince Vance and started working locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, I joined a band called The Project. And then at that point, I was under the umbrella of working with show bands for weddings, parties, private parties, and, whatever, special events. And so I was ready at that point to front a band. And so we worked at I don't know if you remember me talking about the High Rollers at the WinStar World Casino. There's some stuff about that on my website, which is just stephanienadolny.com. And I was able to be a front person. Finally be like the entertainer, like the front.
That's great. That's great.
Interaction. It was a senior breakfast. There was a lot of senior moments. There was a lot of comedy, really cheesy stuff, but it came naturally for me because I literally learned from the master. I mean, Vince Vance is like the king of cheese. I mean, he's it's a show. It's not just music. It's not just costumes. It's a visual, auditory experience. And so I learned about, stage presence and the magic behind not walking around in your costume until it's time to go on stage. And, there's all these little, unwritten rules that you learn when you're performing in front of a live audience. Yep. And so I feel like I kind of just naturally got it from observing for all those years.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, it just goes to show you that when you have great talent, it's timeless.
It is. And we did a 50s to the 90s,
style,
which is the classics. So they're good. They're standing the test of time. And then I got to throw in some of the musical theater and the acting because I'd had some of that as well. So we actually were characters. We were like the Valianette, Violet.
Yeah, you were
Venus,
characters.
Victoria,
exactly.
Vanessa. We all had V names. Those were our show names.
Because Vince was a character.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
It's a show. It's like.
It was a show.
You walk out and the audience is there and it's like let's go.
Well, that's what audiences want. They just want to be entertained.
When
you can entertain them, then you fulfilled your your obligation basically.
Yeah, and I worked with a lot of different musicians, a lot of different singers, girl singers. I started recruiting starlets after I'd been in the band 5, 6, 7, 8 years. After a while, I started recruiting because I knew what we needed. If one was leaving, if one of the girls were leaving for whatever reason, I knew how to go out and recruit. And so now I feel like I'm kind of like this little starlet mentor person.
Nice.
Yes.
And I was able to teach some voice, and I can always go back to that.
Sure.
Teaching kids and beginner piano. I never thought I'd be a piano teacher. I was like, how can I possibly do that? But it's beginner. It's pretty easy. So I'm just doing a little bit of everything, and then just kind of like available for something new if the right time, the right project, the right director.
So I know you're looking for an agent, correct? You're still
I'm a freelance. I'm freelance right now. I do have some agents that do book me for Comic-Cons and appearances, but right now I'm in the process of looking for an agent that can bring me more opportunities to audition for new projects.
Absolutely. So with the strike over SAG-AFTRA strike and everything, does that affect or do you see that affecting where you're going to be looking as far as your stuff with voice acting and that kind of thing?
Thankfully, it hasn't affected me really at all since it all happened, and I'm hoping they're coming to a close with that.
Yep.
I think I heard that they were, and that's great. So it hasn't affected me, and mainly what I'm doing now is an extension of the body of work that's already been long done. But going forward, I worry about AI, and I worry about people. I mean, artists that either replicate or are not really.
Yes,
it's not really their
art. What's your feeling
art.
about that? Do you think that that's going to be a
worry.
issue in the future?
I've already had people AI my voice and put stuff out.
No way.
Well, yeah. I mean, Gohan singing a song or.
Okay, right.
I mean,
is that or without your permission?
Without. I mean, they can take any voice. I mean, the computer I don't even know what the technology is like, to be honest. I'm not really up to date with that. I'm still kind of old school. But I worry about it because it taking away the actual organic. I can't think of the word, but
the inflection,
the analog
nuance of the voice.
Yeah, the actual.
It's very artificial.
Signature.
Yeah, it's artificial. It takes you.
That's why it's called artificial.
A real person. I mean, even if it's like things that are you might not think are good, but like a signature on your voice or a signature on your style.
Right.
I mean, I was at
that little tiny inflection. In your
there's
voice,
something there that you'd like to think would be kind of like copyrighted, or there'd be some kind of a respect there. With I know my friend Ozzy in Orlando does a lot of my work. He's amazing, Ozzy DeViris, and he's had people imitate his work. And it's a compliment, but it's also like kind of treading on my territory here. Like, it's your own style, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I'm looking at it from just a creative artist in general. So I'm trying to look at, how people like you feel. Because I know that if there's an AI artist at a Comic-Con that I've worked with, they've been asked to leave.
Yeah.
Well, it's just not.
It's theft, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
It's not really your plagiarism when you're writing or you're taking.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing if you're an artist and you're copying somebody else's quote unquote style. But if it's a human doing it, then it's never going to be exact or precise.
Right.
Right. You're going to know. Like, I know when somebody shows me
like
something.
bands that do cover songs, for instance.
Right.
You can tell that they're not the original band.
Right.
They can come really close, but
it's
not.
It's a mimic.
Yeah,
right.
you have your inflection.
But it's at least a human performing
actually physically
that thing.
doing
So
it.
you can tell.
Yeah.
With AI, it's you take away that human factor.
There's a human element there, and I kind of equate it to analog versus digital. There's like a warmth and an authentic.
Precisely.
There's something authentic about the real voice or the real instrumentation that's actually being recorded. And so I know when I worked with Carl Finch of Brave Combo, we always did analog. And I think there's still a way to do that, but I know that once you digitize something and it can actually be measured, that's when I think it can compromise the authenticity.
Well, until we pass legislation or laws to protect artists.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West.
Well, I think some people literally they don't know they're doing it. Like, they think, this, or they copy something and make it their own or say it's theirs, and they may have drawn it, but some people they don't realize they're doing it. So I think you got to be careful about coming down on someone who may not. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize.
Yeah, especially
to give people
if they're trying to pass it off as the original.
Right.
Yes. Oh, that's
where the
there's
danger
a big
lies.
issue.
Right.
Yeah,
and then they're accepting payment. So then you're generating an income off of it, and so then that's a whole different ball
which is
of wax.
taking money out of your pockets.
Right. That's exactly right.
Because it's one thing to have you do a commission of Wonder Woman for me, but it's not affecting George Perez or any of those former artists because it's your rendition of Wonder Woman.
Right.
So
legally speaking, I really shouldn't even be doing it.
Right.
The idea is that if I do a commission for you, you're not going to monetize.
Right. Exactly.
It's just for your own.
Yeah, it's for me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is what I want.
Exactly. So I mean, in assuming that you're not monetizing, then most people look the other way.
Yeah.
And it's still a human being actually sat down and actually did the work.
At that point, it's an original.
Yeah. As opposed to someone.
You can just put it in your house or whatever you want to do.
As opposed to a computer drawing.
That actually brings up to another subject when you bring up AI. I recently read there was a voice actor who was complaining that he wasn't getting work because he wasn't the right person. In other words, he wasn't playing the right ethnic persuasion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you heard about that guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought about that?
I mean, if the director likes the talent and it's producing the results that the director or maybe the one writing it, I don't know. I think that sometimes, again, we go back to money. Money is, if there's money involved, it gets very complicated, and I think that sometimes people that may not be involved in the creative process at all, like they're not the one in the booth that are recording with the voice actor and the director, like people that aren't even there or have no idea what's going on, the higher ups, are looking at, we want, ratings, or we want the box office, we want big money, we want this to, and so I think a lot of times those decisions are, out of some of the director's hands, and then they have to like go with who somebody else may have cast.
Yeah,
or may
it
have
seems
not.
very
I just know the politics, even in Dallas.
It seems very short-sighted because we're no longer in a meritocracy. The thing is that it used to be I'm hoping it still is, that you were hired based on your talent and your ability, not because
of your name, or if you're
playing this ethnic person on a cartoon show, you have to be that ethnic persuasion.
Yeah,
not because you're qualified.
If the creator, director, the person behind the project is good with it, and they can produce it, and it sounds like that ethnic, and it sounds really. If they're doing a good job, that's great. I'm happy for anybody and everybody that.
Yeah, if you're going by that standard, then you could probably say, well.
But if it's a big name, or it's already an actor that may or may not have ever voice acted in their life.
Yes, that's another thing.
That's a whole nother, all the big movies, and Shrek and all those. Not that they didn't do a good job.
Just because they're big
we
name.
Have Eddie Murphy as his character.
And then they therefore
because it's Eddie Murphy's name
because it's
attached.
Eddie Murphy, or because it's Robin Williams, who by the way was a great
voice actor.
Yes,
but those guys were stand-up comedians, so they are used to doing
the vocalization and kind of having some acting.
But I'm talking about actors who have no experience at all in voice acting.
So like The Rock, for instance.
Yes, and they just
and they think they can
voice act, and it's really a very nuanced profession.
Right. It's embodying the character through the voice with that's all you've got to work with. You've just got the voice. It's got to be, it's got the
it's like with me
it.
from growing up. Again, my age is coming through with the Transformers.
I know how old you are because I'm the same age.
I know with the cartoon character, with the Transformers, a cartoon. For me, I was so overly excited when the live action came out because they kept Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus Prime. And I was like,
they did.
That's the only voice that could be. They could never change that because it wouldn't be Optimus Prime anymore.
Right.
To me. Because that's the epitome of who I grew up listening to. That was Optimus's voice.
Right. And unfortunately, they do get sometimes replaced. I know I've been replaced in Kai and Super.
Right.
But
and
the voices
tell.
are completely different.
Yeah,
the
but
voice,
you can tell.
And the fans know.
Yeah, and a lot of
they
times you're like,
tell.
oh, it's not,
it's
just not
like,
the
why
same.
did they do that?
Because I equate Optimus Prime to Peter Cullen's voice.
Yeah.
They're one and the same. And I know there are kids like my son equates, now that he knows who you are, because, you listen to the podcast, Beyond the Bubbles, listen to it.
That's great.
But because he was a big Dragonball Z fan when he was a kid, and he was like, when I told him I was interviewing you, and this guy said, oh, wait, it's a girl? And then it was like, oh. And
which one? Which
he
character?
told me Goku. He told me when there was a change, what's it, Goku or Gohan?
Goku or Gohan? Well, Kid Goku is in Dragon Ball, and he's the protagonist.
Yeah.
And in Dragon Ball Z, Goku has a son named Gohan, and I played Gohan, but I got cast as Gohan first.
But one of them is still, you were replaced.
Mm-hmm. In Kai.
Yeah, and he was like, it's not
the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not that person. It's not that character any longer.
Right. Right, and unfortunately, those things do happen, and it happened with OKKO. I was working with OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, at Cartoon Network prior to COVID. This was back in like 2012 through about 17. I was the only cast member that was not LA based, but the director wanted me to be KO and OKKO, and so we worked it out. And then I flew in a couple times, but we recorded. It wasn't anime. We recorded all together in the same room and played off each other, then they animated later. So we worked with like storyboards and stuff. But then, unfortunately, after I was working on the project, the first 8 episodes, the powers that be, like I said, that have nothing to do with the creative process, said we can't have we need everybody to be LA based, or that can come in and be regional. And so I was replaced on that. But it could be something that you did or didn't do. It doesn't necessarily matter. Like it just could be a decision about the corporate, CEO says, no, we got to do this or this or that. And then the people have to follow suit.
You know what happens? It's just as fans, sometimes it's devastating.
Yeah, it's devastating. Yeah, absolutely.
If that voice changes.
Because at least with them, they got somebody to mimic me, which was kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
But on the Kai and Super, there's no mimicking at all. It's a completely different voice.
They can get close, but it's not exact. I mean, but that brings up to another thing. Is what exactly is your process of deciding on what a character should sound like?
Yeah.
When somebody comes up to you and shows you a bunch of characters, says, we want you to voice this character. What process do you go through? Then?
I usually look at the character if there's a picture available, and then I read the description, and then I get an age range, and if they whatever description they have, I take that in first, and then I kind of think in my head, what would this character sound like? And fortunately, I had a lot of experience with that growing up, making up my own characters.
Yep.
So I have all kinds of different things I can do that aren't necessarily mimicking, which is good. I have original voices. So I just follow direction, and then I just lay down a track, and sometimes they'll let me do a second take. So I'll do one that I think is really good, and then I'll pitch it up a bit, or like do a higher pitch version or a lower pitch version, or I might even do some different inflections with the acting, and that's where the acting comes in. So it kind of depends on the project, but you know, and I submit and just like, oop, forget about it, because if you don't hear back, that means you didn't get cast, and that's fine. You move on to the next one, but. I mean, rejection is like,
so
I've got to deal with rejection in this line of work. I mean, in showbiz.
You can't handle it, then this is not the business
get out of the
for
kitchen.
You.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
So your story is by no means the commonplace for voice actors to, I mean, the road they take to become a voice actor. They don't go through music and
yeah, it was connection. Well, in some way it can be connections.
Yeah.
But
So there was a voice actor, actress that was like, I want to break in to the business. What would be some advice that you would have for them?
Yeah, I actually just did a consult over Zoom with a young up and coming voice actor in DC. He's only 18, and he's already got like a home studio. So I was like basically did a consult with him, find out what his background is, how much experience do you have, kind of feel out the situation. Does he live near a big city? Does he have an agent? Is he going to want an agent? What kind of voice acting is he primarily wanting to do? Do you want to go into animation, cartoons, audio books, radio, commercials, ads, announcer, MC? Do you want to do stuff on camera, off camera? I mean, I'm just naturally going to be better at, guiding and pointing someone in the right direction with my own personal experience, which has been, the music, but the acting experience, and then the technical side of it, I kind of turned that over to my manager, Dan Bradford. He works at a radio station, and so he's around all this kind of stuff all the time, and he does it full time where he's a production director. So he puts together radio spots and then puts the music underneath them and produces them and stuff. So I kind of hand it over at that point because I don't have the knowledge yet about technology as far as editing and coming up with a good high quality audio sound file with a quick turnaround. Like we do that as a team, but I also provide my voice for him. So it works out great. But I definitely, I think there's so much more now that we've got the World Wide Web.
Yes.
And so many avenues that I don't even know about to get into voice acting. You can just Google, and there's free workshops, or there's workshops that you can pay people who are actively in the industry that can really give you some honed-in advice about direction. So I do what I can, and then I pass them over, or I give them ideas of websites I've used, like Upwork or Voices 123, where you can set up your own profile and then just start. Whether you get paid or not really doesn't matter. It's a matter of just going through the motions of having a home studio and getting the right interface and the right software, and then practicing, and then getting a demo. You absolutely have to get a demo. And are you going to just do character voices? Okay, that's fine. You could do a character demo for a minute, and then you can do like a industrial one, where it's your actual speaking voice, or maybe you reading some advertisement. So I just kind of I take each one as one at a time. But I do get a lot of people asking me that at the actual meet and greets.
Wow.
And if I have time and there's not a line or there's not a lot going on, I'll just tell them right then and there, or we'll do a panel on it or something.
Well, it must be a little different for you because people just can't hand you like a demo reel right off your table. Because
it depends. Yeah, it depends because I write back to all my fans. I give them my card and they can write a form submission.
That's great.
Yeah. I love it. It's like my anime babies or my all over the world. And so I always write them back. That's another thing I do throughout the week when I've got time to do so. And I point them in a direction, or I refer them to somebody I might know in the industry that I highly recommend. There's a studio here, Iolite Studios, not too far from here actually. And they do workshops all the time, and they advertise for them, and then people kind of come along and go through the motions of actually going into a booth and doing it actually ADR dubbing, where you're dubbing an anime in English, and then they can come up with characters, and then we can kind of give them feedback.
Yep.
Kind of like coaching, but they have special guests, and I've been invited to do that a couple times.
Yeah,
so.
I've even noticed that at some of the cons that I've been to, there's been some of the panels and that kind of thing that are actually devoted to voice acting or cosplaying or whatever, and you get some. They have some great. They'll have someone like you as the panelist.
Hey, let's do
saying, and people just bouncing questions off of them like, how did you get into the business? What should I do? I'm working on this. What do you think?
Right. That's
getting
the
your
best
ideas.
way to do it is you got to ask questions because you just don't know any better. I mean, I was in a situation where I was already working. I don't want to call it full time because it was traveling and touring, so it was like 250 days a year or whatever. That's pretty. I think that's pretty much full time.
That's pretty full time.
Yeah, it was
that's
like
your life.
extra crazy all the time.
It's one of those things where everyone thinks it's easy.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, there's an old saying that professionals make it look easy.
Yeah.
Right.
You see,
I mean, you can have a
professional-
natural talent
Right.
Already, which will only help, but you've got to hone your talent.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
you can be the most talented person in whatever profession. And if you're not asking questions, if you're not getting coaching, or if you're not, getting integrated into the industry in any way possible, online or in person, or then you're not going to learn, and you're not going to meet people who can help you.
And then sometimes people just not cut out to be voice actors.
Yeah, and some of them just do it as a hobby, and you can do it as a hobby and generate a small income or a large income depending on because it depends on the client. Because some people's budgets are lower, and they're fine with an industrial voice that's just doing a training video for a company, and it doesn't have to be some outlandish, amazing voice. It doesn't have to be Morgan Freeman. Or, I mean, it's nice if you can get those.
Yeah, well, I
the
noticed a
big
trend
names,
on YouTube where a lot of amateur voice actors will take a anime and just dub it themselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
that's
that's
cool.
good practice.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's-
would have been doing that if
Oh.
for me, that was my cassette.
I'm surprised you didn't
player,
do that.
Dubbing cassettes to cassettes.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Well, the night is young.
I'm like
I've thought about doing that.
definitely. I can see you with your little mic and
Yeah.
recording yourself and
Well, making it
dubbing.
funny usually.
Yeah.
I'm silly. I
Yeah.
tend to go.
No,
I lean towards
what?
comedy. I know. I
serious?
know.
Really?
I never would have known you weren't serious.
Let's be serious for a second.
So
Time's up. Ah!
So, we talked about earlier you being busy. What are some things you have coming up where folks can come see you, can follow your work, can do all
Yeah.
that? We want to know where we can find Stephanie.
Yeah.
So we can not.
Right.
I don't want to say stalk, but
Oh, it
Be
can
a fan.
happen.
Be a fan.
Right, fans
Yes.
and some. Yeah, my website is pretty much a good start. Just my name, stephanienadolny.com. I probably did that last time. Yeah, I got to throw a song in there somewhere.
Yes.
And then I post regularly where I'm going to be. This weekend is Missouri. It's funny. I had two Springfields back to back. I had a Springfield, Georgia, and a Springfield, Missouri. Back-to-back Springfields. Now, where's Illinois, right?
yeah, right.
Are you going to meet the Simpsons there?
Yeah, I know, I know.
In one of those Springfields.
Right. It's an anime festival I'll be appearing at, and then everything else will be on the website because I know this is going to be
Cool.
at some point outdated. So they'll be like,
Yeah.
it already happened.
Yeah.
But then I've got the big Vince Vance and the Valiants 52nd anniversary. We do still have tickets
Oh.
available.
When is
It
that?
Awesome.
So when is
the
that?
25th of November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Sweet.
Oh, my
It's going to be in
goodness.
Dallas at a place called Lone Star. I don't have the information in front of me, but I will be posting that on my Stephanie Nadolny Voice Actress page as well as on my website, and that'll be fun. There's still some tickets left, and that's going to be
Nice.
really awesome, especially for people that are familiar with Vince Vance or used to see Vince Vance in the 80s, 90s, or years ago.
Well, the best decade for the music ever.
Yeah, and it'll be a jam
Right?
session towards the end. So.
Yeah.
And then I've got some stuff going on in Florida and Pennsylvania in December. Gonna be taking a break to see my father. He's ailing, and I got to go see him. I haven't seen him in
Absolutely.
about 10 years, so
Oh,
I got to go see
wow.
my daddy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all of us. Is kind of, at least for me, and probably for you too, being toward kind of December, everything kind of takes a break.
It
a little
actually
bit.
mellows for me.
I
mean, I get
December
busy
2nd
before
and December, I think 10th are the 2 days that I'm.
2 Saturdays.
Then it's like after that, it's okay. Rest of the month, we can just kind of
Chill.
Christmas
Yeah.
stuff and kids, grandkids, all that kind of thing, and then
And then
January,
I clean. I get
it's
stuff
right back
done
to it.
during
In
the
January,
holidays.
it's right back
Start
to it for
doing
me.
my
I'm
taxes.
I
it.
catch up. Right. I
Yeah.
catch up on a
Tax-
ton of
ooh, Don't
stuff.
say taxes.
I know. I don't
Why
want
you
to talk
need
about
ruin a
taxes.
good
Oh,
conversation?
well, it's a part of life.
Hey,
You
that's
can't-
part of life.
can't
What is
avoid
the
it.
only thing that's certain in life is death,
Death
and
and
taxes.
taxes is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It is a
Might as
part
well
of
get it
life.
handled early, get it over
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, no, that is a good time to play catch up for some people. Now, some people work a lot. Like when I was in the show bands, I was working like crazy for the holidays, and I still have things I can do.
For holiday
weddings,
shows,
parties,
weddings,
New Year's Eve. Oh my goodness, I haven't had a New Year's Eve often. Well, I have recently, but like New Year's Eve was like, that's where you make the big bucks in the show bands.
And so, Ben, what do you have coming up?
Well, I'm just working on my comics, trying to stay afloat among the doom and gloom of the comic industry right now. I think we're going through a rather tumultuous change right now in the comic industry.
I think so.
Mostly a lot of people are saying it's because of the economy. A lot of people are saying because it's just the content that the big two are putting out. There's all sorts of reasons why people think the comic industry is hitting the skids, so to speak. But, if you've been in business as long as I have, you see it come and go. So you just
the collectors are out there.
Ride the wave.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, I read comic books. That was a big deal for me.
Did you really just ask if I read comics?
Now, but it was a part of our childhood.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many people just
Archie, Richie
flip
Rich.
comics. They don't read them.
Yeah, I know.
They collect,
No. I've actually,
sell 'em.
I mean, it's strictly a business. They don't care about the story. They just buy, flip. Yeah.
It's a way to generate commerce.
But it's one of those things that, I love what I'm doing now just because I get to hang out with like-minded people.
Yes.
In fact, I said this on Twitter not too long ago. Well, it might have been like in September. We went to Fan Expo in Dallas. And I was walking around, and I went strictly as a fan, just to kind of, it's one of those I went to just to hang out, and because John Bernthal was there from The Punisher and Vincent D'Onofrio, and it was really cool. But the thing is that it's like there's all these different, from ethnicities to age gaps to whatever, and everybody just gets along. It's like it's the perfect melting pot where everybody just, all your differences and everything stay outside.
Sorry about that.
Yay.
Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Time to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Awesome.
Yeah, all your differences just kind of stay at the door, and it's just it's just love and fun and acceptance and just great. And so I wish, I wish the world could be like a Comic-Con where it's just kind of just like, everybody is just, and it's so much fun. It
is fun.
The best time I've ever had has been this year doing this.
Yeah.
And getting to meet folks like you.
At some more than others, a level of acceptance with the cosplay and really letting people just be.
Just be you.
Be that misfit, and misfit is, I hope, becoming more
Which was one of those things, you fortunately were kind of a trailblazer in that you've always you've been Stephanie, no matter what other people thought about you, or you may appear, she's... Man, what's that strange girl doing? It was just always, you were just you, and you're still you, which I appreciate so much for never changing. I love
thank
that you are who you are.
I had a rough time moving around a lot. I was ripped from school to school and place to place, and every time I would try to set up a camp or a fortress, it was just gone. Yeah. So I've had to. It's a blessing and a curse, because you can put me anywhere and I can kind of navigate, and I've got this resilience that had to be intact as a very young child. And, of course, I draw, and I draw a lot of strength from it because, like I said, the hard times, and this business is insidious, and I love it, and I stay positive as often as I can, but there's an insidiousness there, and that's unfortunate. But that can be found in any profession.
Absolutely.
There's
anywhere.
Politics.
Yeah, anywhere.
And but I think that, the Comic-Cons and the meet and greets and all kinds of, like you said, it's a melting pot, and there is a level of more open understanding and acceptance there for fans of any and all pop culture. And I think that's a really nice, safe place to be. And I like that a lot of them stand by that. And if there's anything compromised, they're asked to leave, because it really needs to be a place where people do come together and they are like-minded, and there's that level of acceptance.
So can't thank you enough again for joining us.
My
love having
pleasure.
you here.
It's always great to have you.
Same.
Yeah, this door is always open. So whenever you want to drop in and just, hey, when are you
I'm going to put
doing
my
one? You
sleeping
can
bag
come
right
by.
here,
Yeah.
and I'll just have a little nap, and we'll get up and do it all over.
And so you can find all of Stephanie's contacts at stephanienadolny.com. She's also on Twitter. She's on Facebook. She's probably on Instagram.
Instagram. I do have a TikTok. I've been putting some crazy, silly stuff up there too. So have some fun with that. Yeah, I've been having some fun. I've got the one thing I'm wanting to do more of is put my more of my music out there, because a lot of the anime fans with the voice acting have zero clue that I'm a singer, and that's for me is where it all began. Now it's still the voice, but the singing and the music is the whole.
Have they ever asked you to actually sing an anime opening?
Oh, I have done. That's funny you said that. I did Yu Yu Hakusho, Sayonara Bye Bye, the opening
really?
and closing to Kitty Grade. And
you hear that, folks?
Yes, and Case Closed, and a lot of those are on my website. You can find them on YouTube. For whatever reason, I'm not credited, but they are on my website. And
why didn't
maybe
they
there's a way.
you?
I'm not sure why. Carl Finch was the director of the music and the production. He was listed, but I guess the vocalist.
That's an injustice that needs to be rectified.
I know. I don't know if that can be put on IMDb or whatever, but I'm going to also be putting up my album and stuff like that, hopefully on Spotify and CD Baby, and I'm also going to try to get back in the studio, and I'm actually working on a project. Obviously, I can't talk about it, but it's a project that I'm working on with my first bass player in my first band at 18.
Awesome.
We're going to be working on a project together where we're writing songs for a children's book.
Awesome. That's cool. Well, it can't be, I don't know if it can be put on IMDb or not, but I'm pretty sure it can be updated on Wikipedia. So
okay, that might be a little bit
So those
easier.
changes may happen.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah, just Super Saiyan.
Yeah, Super Saiyan.
Yeah. I got to throw the lingo
absolutely.
in.
So, and I will, of course, tag you in our stuff on Beyond the Bubbles on Twitter.
Okay.
We're also on Facebook. We you can listen to us on YouTube. You can Spotify, iTunes, all those formats. Please go hit the like button, subscribe, follow us, let us know any input. If you have any questions, follow Stephanie around, show up at random shows where she's at.
I'm like the Tasmanian devil, but like a really nice, sweet Tasmanian devil.
If she's
That's
not
what Dan
in
calls
your,
me.
Yeah, if she's not in your town now, she will be.
Yes.
She's everywhere.
Right.
Or somewhere close.
And don't
anyway.
forget about speaking of us being from Durant, Oklahoma, Durant Middle School, which is where those are my people. Those are the ones I really I did not want to move away, you guys.
We didn't want you to.
I kind
we
of
loved
all came back. Well, Dallas is close.
Well, we were happy to have you here for sure.
Yes, I feel more at home, in this region. And we do have the Texoma Comic Con coming up. It's a big first-year con in Durant, Oklahoma, in February. I think it's like around the 24th.
Yep. Sounds exciting.
Of
Ben,
2024.
are you going to be there, Ben?
I think so. I don't know. I'll have to double check.
I think you're, So that's going to be fun. Come out and see us. Again, just so you know, Ben will be at the Dallas Comic Show this weekend in Louisville. I will be there as well with the booth. So you're going to come by and buy a comic from me, go and have Ben do a commission on it. What a setup.
Can't go wrong.
And you'll love the staff. The staff, the volunteers, they're amazing people.
Yeah,
they're like personal friends of mine now.
So everybody staying busy. Again, thank you once again for joining us.
My
we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us out there. We appreciate it. Please come back and see us again. Thanks, folks.